Well, it took a little longer than we thought, but we have finally arrived at Transplant Day. If you guys are just joining us and you don't know what we're transplanting, these are some yellow pear cherry tomatoes. I got these seeds from survivalgardenseeds.com. If you guys haven't gotten your heirloom seeds yet, you can still use that discount code, Nina Rind Wood Water Outdoors. It's good all year long, so even if you don't start your garden this year, you can still start your garden next year with better seeds, better quality for a lower price. Another thing that we talked a little bit about that I said that I would touch more on is companion planting. So one thing I did, and you probably can't see it very well, but one thing I did was make myself a little book. I have this wonderful graph paper journal because I love to design cabins and tiny homes and things of that nature. But with the grid paper, I was able to draw out all of my beds and kind of quadrant off where I want everything to be. We have this wonderful 3-foot gap between our carrots and our potatoes. And one of the things that you can plant with both carrots and potatoes is broccoli. It's a very shallow rooting crop, so we're going to put broccoli, just a couple of plants right here in the middle. Over here we're going to have some tomatoes and hot peppers. We've got some okra. Okra is going to do really well with the hot peppers because it'll help as a windbreak. So the okra is going to provide a little extra stability for them in case we have a strong breeze come through. It's going to kind of break the wind and keep those from getting pushed down. The tomatoes are going to go in the other end where there's a little bit more shade. We've got some bush beans here in the center. We've got some green beans along the side, and then we've got some cucumbers and one squash plant. I have my snow peas here. We've got squash and zucchini in this bed over here. We filled up lines and then just made the lines into individual mounds. And then over in this bed we have all of our corn, which I've also planted some additional bush beans to grow in between the layers of the corn. Those are going to pull nitrogen into the soil for the corn. Everybody talks about the three sisters, squash, beans, and corn. They're not lying. There's definitely a method to that madness. However, I did not have enough room to plant my squash with my corn this year, so it is corn adjacent. Now all we have to do is get them in the ground. So this is our okra, and most of our weather comes from that direction, so we're going to plant it along this line. We're going to save a space right in here for our hot peppers. They're still a little bit small. I'm going to leave them in the cup for a bit and let them get a little bigger before we put them out, but they are already hardened off. They've been spending their days and nights outside every day for the past 14 days. Our dirt is very dry, but it's going to rain in a couple of hours. I'm disinclined to separate them because that could lead to root shock. If transplanting root shock is something that you deal with regularly, one of the ways you can combat that is by taking about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of Epsom salt and dissolving it into a gallon of distilled water and watering your fresh babies with that, and that will help kind of regulate and get them some extra nutrients so they don't freak out as soon as they leave their little baby cups. The sun works its way inward throughout the day, so we're going to put a couple tomatoes back here and a couple further out into the sun more and see how they do. Those are going to kind of show you where they want to divide. You don't have to pull these apart. You can literally just put a little pressure on the soil and they will work their way apart. See that? Nice and easy. And you still have a nice full developed root system on each one. Now these two, I think, are just destined to be together. And it works out pretty well because I only have one hole left on this side.
That's what she said.
And we're going to leave this area open for more beans and cucumbers. I do have more of those germinating. Jump over here and do our broccoli. I really only have enough room for 2 heads here. A lot of people would say that I only have enough room for 1 head, but we are kind of micro gardening this year, so I'm going to do 2 no matter what. This is just gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
Beautiful. It even smells good.
Brown gold.
Oh my god, it smells really good actually.
You sniff that dirt hole.
Oh, sniff my dirt hole.
Oh.
Right? Now we are planting 2 seedlings, 2 sprouts side by side, but the broccoli is probably one of the only plants that I'm actually concerned about. This is already kind of leggy, so we're going to let those 2 live together, and if I have to pick one later, I will. But I only have room for 2 plants anyway, so it is what it is, and the strongest will survive. If I'm able to guide my broccolis apart from each other, they're going to have a whole lot more room to develop leaves and head over this way. our Brussels sprouts. They play along well with beans and squashes. So we're gonna do a little line of them.
So pretty.
Right? I love that you love vegetable plants, even if you won't eat them. And we have our beets. Beets do really well next to Brussels sprouts because these are a root crop and these have a very shallow root system. Where our beets will grow low, our Brussels sprouts will grow high. Say that 3 times fast. Josh just had to record me saying that like 4 times over. Just kind of keep pulling it up slowly as I gather soil around it to keep that root pointed nice and downward. See how they do in the next day or two. They should perk up when this rain comes. So I keep thinking I hear an ambulance, but it's actually Murphy at the door crying because he wants to come help us. And he's a great help in the garden, really. He digs the best holes. But I don't need any more Murph holes dug in my garden. I have some extra right here. I'm going to keep these growing inside just in case these fail. I do have some more already started so that I don't have to start from seed if I need to replace them. It's moving in on us. I just heard thunder. Just as a little side note, we have a compost pile going over here. So far it's just mostly grass clippings. That was where I took those shots of Josh in slow-mo. But yeah, once it gets down to where it looks like pretty much nothing, that is when we mound the potatoes up a little bit higher. And I think that'll do them. Potatoes, potatoes. We've got another one started in the side yard, and I do own a compost tumbler. And we're throwing grass down in here as well. And you can see, turn the flash on, if I dig down past all that, you can see some of that beautiful black, just broken down organic gorgeousness. And when we get this whole thing full, we'll go ahead and build another raised bed. It has been 4 days since we transplanted. We've had a good amount of rain. I finally installed a cheap rain gauge just to kind of keep track of that. And as you can see, everything is doing really, really well. We haven't lost anything. We haven't had any root shock. I did notice, though, a little too late, that the trellis we built for the green beans is going to be null and void this year. It didn't actually say on the package, but these are a bush variety of green bean and not a climber. So we're going to have cucumbers up the one side, but I think the other side is going to be empty this season. Squash all doing very well. And we finally get our first look at our baby corns. The beans that I planted with them haven't come up yet, but I expect to see those in the next day or so. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you watch for the next video. We'll update about once a week, and we'll try to balance things out with some trout lining. We'll see you next time.